Hey, everybody. Thanks for joining episode 3 of the All-22 guys. Andy Linneman here. I'll be joined by my buddy John Foster, and we're graced with the presence of one Chris Lombardi, one of the creators of the All-22 platform. Chris is going to tell us a little bit about himself, some of the exploits of his own All-22 football teams, and some background behind the development and the history of the All-22 game itself. Hope you'll enjoy. Thanks for watching, and we'd appreciate it if you please subscribe to the podcast, as well as click that like button. Thanks for listening. Hey, Andy Linneman here with John Foster. We're here for the next episode of the All-22 guys. We're joined by this guy who claims to know a little bit about All-22. I don't know if that's really true. I've seen this guy's draft, so I'm totally skeptical that that's really accurate. But actually, he schooled us, and it was a master class in how to do a draft. We're joined by Chris Lombardi of All-22. Chris, how you doing tonight?
I'm doing awesome. It's awesome to be on with you guys, having a great night, great September weather already.
Yeah.
It smells a lot like football.
Yeah, man. Two more nights. We're recording this on a Tuesday evening. So about this time, well, certainly by this time, yeah, it's actually right about kickoff 2 days from now. So I can't wait. Tell us a little bit about the wonder of the life of one Chris Lombardi. Tell me about your family, where you live. And again, you don't, as I said, you don't have to really tell the truth, but sort of, we're not going to hunt you down. You're on the East Coast, right?
Yes, I'm on the East Coast. I'm actually in the Hudson Valley up in upstate New York. Born and raised here, went to high school with Ray and Bobby, who are the other co-founders of All-22. We played football together. Bobby played quarterback. Ray and I played corner. We all went our separate ways in college. I went to Sacred Heart. I played a little bit of football there. Fake story, I was a superstar. Real story, I was a bench warmer. But it was awesome nonetheless, just getting to be in that environment and met some of the best friends I've ever had playing college football.
Awesome.
Came back home after college. We played a couple years of fantasy football together and then had the idea. We'll get into that later, I guess. But
yeah.
I actually work at a law firm. I'm not a lawyer.
That's good.
I review.
You know, insurance guy, lawyer, we're the butt of every joke. See?
Exactly. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I review contracts for a living, and All-22 is my passion.
Yeah, it's really,
yeah, exactly.
I do the same thing. If you want somebody to review, if you ever need to get into the weeds in a disability contract, I'm your guy.
All right, perfect.
We need a life. Both of us need life.
Exactly. So, I got a dog. I have a beagle. He's actually laying on my bed right now.
Yeah.
He's about 4 years old, and then I have a son who's 10 months a couple days ago. So it's been good.
We're late getting started tonight because we had to do a run to the pharmacy for a double ear infection. So
That's right.
We've been there, done that. Got all of those T-shirts. I have 4 children. Most people are surprised to hear this. I'm actually only 29. I look this way with all this gray hair because I have 4 children, you see. So I would encourage you to keep it at a lower number. One of my kids, Chris, is in one of the other All-22 leagues, the one that John just joined, and we drafted John, I guess it was like in June. And one of my kids is in that. So how awesome is that? Yeah.
So cool.
Yeah, man. So you've got a little one. I know the answer to this, but people probably don't. In terms of your NFL fandom, I've listened to the podcast, so I know what the answer is to this question. So you're probably very excited about the upcoming season. Who gets the love for your NFL fandom?
Yeah, you hinted on it right there. Yeah. My last name is actually Lombardi, and I was raised a huge Packer fan.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So and it's sort of heady days again in Green Bay.
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's exciting. And actually, so my dad went to Fordham, played football at Fordham, and that's where Vince Lombardi went, for those that don't know that. So he was a Packer fan, raised me a Packer fan. And yeah, I've been really spoiled. I mean, Brett Favre, Aaron Rodgers, and Jordan Love seems like the real deal. So I've been enjoying the ride for sure.
Terrific. Well, I hope they're going to have a good season. Should be interesting. It's going to be a tougher division now, so it's kind of starting to look like a little bit like the AFC North, a little bit. We'll see. It's probably a little early to say that, but how crazy is it to say that the Lions, you as a Packers fan are entering the season where the Lions are going to be tough, right? So that's
Bears should be tough, and the Vikings had all the hallmarks to be better.
Yeah.
So everybody in the league, everybody in the conference improved.
Yeah. Yeah. In
I
that
like it. Yeah.
division. Yeah. No
Mhm.
doubt.
And I know, John, you're a Bengal fan, right? But Andy, you're also a Bengal fan. You're both close to Cincinnati, correct?
Yeah. John lives about an hour north, 45 minutes north of the city. I live about 20 minutes south. So
Okay.
I always want to be an hour away from John Foster, wherever he lives. That's as close as I want to get, you see?
Sure.
So if you ever fly into Cincinnati, most people don't know this. The Cincinnati airport's actually in northern Kentucky. So for most of the people that I know, I don't actually, I tell people I live in Cincinnati. Only once they
Mhm.
get to know me do I really admit that I'm from Kentucky, because if you tell them that right away, they start to look to see if you have your teeth. I am wearing shoes. These are my real teeth. Although some of those myths that you've heard about people from Kentucky could be true. In fact, I did marry my sister. It ended very badly. I'm happily remarried now, I'm happy to say. And John can vouch for that. And I have a football wife. My partner in two of the leagues is a guy that my wife, John Ganster, calls my football wife. It's just like, you guys, I've lost you for another 4 months. Starting yesterday was the first time she said that, because we're planning our strategy for all of our bids and roster moves, and we made 2 trades. So it's a
Love
ton of
it.
fun. John, talk about, I'm going to cede the baton to you now. And
Well, I was just going to ask you a little bit tell me about some of your teams. How many teams have you had? I'll follow that up with some kind of question that I have on my strategy here in a minute. But tell me about your teams. How long have you been playing, and what you look for in teams and players?
Sure. So, I mean, I've been playing for as long as it existed, right? So, our first team was it's this league called the Inaugural League, and it's me and all my friends from my hometown, and we've been playing it. We started playing it in Excel about 6 years ago, and carried it over to the website. The first year, we were the first ones to play on the website together, and then carried it forward. We're still playing it, and this year is actually going to be the first year we put a little pot together, which will be cool.
nice.
We That was the first league. I played in between 12 and 15 all-22 leagues a year. This year, I've got that down to, I think, 8. And it's really just a way to continue to like test the system, make sure things are working the way they're supposed to, and also get to meet, cool guys like you. But yeah, no,
Oh,
it's
yeah.
been awesome. I like to rub it into Ray and Bobby, because when we made this game, I had beaten them in a traditional football league, fantasy football league, and they told me that there was no way I would ever beat them in something more realistic like All-22. And I won 3 championships in a row in that inaugural league. So I like to kind of like rub it in on them. So I hope they listen to this and hear that, because they'll be happy I spread that message. Things I look for, strategy. I like to always try to have a stud at every position at every level, right? So I always try to at least have one stud offensive tackle, one stud guard, one stud edge rusher, defensive interior, and I won't really look to add a second one until I've kind of got some balance along the positions. And then once I have that stud, my strategy is always like, let me go and get that young guy I believe in to be that second player. And then my last thing is I try to wrap everything up with, let me get some older guy that I know is going to be solid for me no matter what. I might only have a year or 2 with him, but like Demario Davis is a great example. I have Demario Davis in almost every league I play in. I don't know if I got him in the league with you guys, but he's like my go-to towards the end of the draft. I love like rounding things out like that. So I always end up with a young stud, a young guy that I believe in, and then a vet. That's really my go-to strategy every all-22 draft.
Cool. So, as a new person that hasn't played before, tell me a little bit about what you think you need to score to be competitive and win every week. That you look at a lot of people's scorecards, and if somebody can truly um, explain the PFF scoring system to me, and versus the eyeball test, I'd love to see
Mm-hmm.
the math behind it. But I I just you look at people and they have a really good week, and then they have not so good week, and the secret is can you keep a high enough score? What do you think that score is?
Yeah. That's a great question. So I don't know if you guys realized this, but the weekly matchup score, which is the total of your team's offense and defense, comes to a score between 0 and 100, the same as a PFF score. So we tried to make your weekly score almost as if it's your team's PFF score at the end of the week. And an average PFF score is between like a 60 and a 65, which means if you're going to win every week, you have to be at the very high end of that. And if you could be somewhere around 70 every week, you're likely one of the best teams in the league. There's some teams I've seen that like 72, 73 every week. That's like as good as it gets. Like, so just for context, right? If you get that B minus C plus average, you're a stud. But again, most teams are going to be around 60 to 65 every week.
Okay.
And to answer another question, I heard this in your first episode too, you guys put together, is the eye test is really important, right? So you're not going to be able to just look at a box score and say, oh, that linebacker had 15 tackles. He must have had a great game. Jamin Davis.
I can pull it up. Like there was a game where he had whatever it was, 26 tackles or something like that. And I think his grade was 26. I'm exaggerating. It was like 19 and his grade was 26. And so our motto, John Ganster, my motto every week when we have a guy, particularly a linebacker who doesn't score well, we go, well, obviously he had too many tackles last week. He's a tackling.
Well, you'd be surprised. You'd be surprised. And a lot of that is because, they're missing assignments or they're, a lot of times you can get a tackle 7 yards down the field, but that's a 7-yard gain, right? And that's a really negative play in the NFL. So, are they doing what they're supposed to be doing? Are they, meeting their assignments? A really good example also was there was a week where one of the tackles, I don't remember which one, but we watched him and it looked like he was getting destroyed. There was a couple plays in a row where, he dropped back, the edge rusher kind of went by him and went right to the quarterback and sacked the quarterback, and it was a pretty deep sack. And I actually asked PFF, RIP, he used to be Steve Palazzolo with PFF, but he's no longer with PFF. We asked him, what was that? Why was
Steve
this great?
Palazzolo, just like Mike Renner, the late Steve Sam.
And this tackle ended up with like a 90 grade. And we're like, how did he have a 90 grade? He let up a couple sacks that were pretty bad. And he said that the quarterback was supposed to take 3-step drops and ended up taking 5-step drops. Yeah. And that changes the angle that the edge rusher is able to get to. The tackle, was blocking for a 3-step drop, not a 5-step drop. Mm-hmm. So the onus is actually on the quarterback, not on the tackle. So you really do need to have that eye test and understand kind of what's meant to be on every play. And honestly, the more you watch and the more you kind of understand the game of football, and part of the reason we built this game is we want people to be watching the games for that kind of context, not to just say, that receiver had 150 yards and 2 touchdowns. We want you to watch the guard and the tackle and see how important their jobs are and how they can make such a difference in the game, because that's really what football is all about.
Sure. And Andy and I agree with this. We drive our wives a little crazy on replaying plays to see whether, a tackle was beat or whether they were overloaded and handled it well. And, it's like, what just happened there? Because, I was watching a different part of the play and it takes 5 hours to watch a game sometimes because we're always, taking back and looking at that. And Andy and I are probably the two people that talk on Mondays about interior defensive and offensive line play that we saw this weekend. So,
that's awesome.
So PFF for me has been a way for me to digest football and see football through a different lens, right?
Sure.
And then when you guys did that initial podcast on Sam and Steve's, you guys were a guest on Sam and Steve's podcast, which I'm already listening to. Check the Mic. Is that what it is? Their new show?
Check the Mic.
So,
yeah, I've listened to that too.
Listening to some of their broadcast today. And when you came on, I listened to that. I'm going to say it was like March of 22 or something like that, February of 22 when you guys were on. And I called my football wife, John Ganster, and said, dude, I got something for us. Let's get into the history a little bit so what I know about your company is you guys, just from hearing excerpts from your podcast, when you guys dive into it a little bit, that you guys were doing this on a spreadsheet for a little while. How did you go from, the spreadsheet to actually having a platform that was up and operational?
Sure. So we actually had been pinging PFF for a few years, asking them for permission to do this, and they, a few times said no. And we actually lied to them and said we were going to be in Cincinnati for work one day if we could just stop by and say hi. And we drove 10 hours out to Cincinnati, showed up at their doorstep with a presentation, and I think we did a good job because they invited us back, and we got to actually present to Neil Hornsby, who is the founder of PFF, and he gave us the green light to do it. So we got to take it then from the spreadsheet to the app, and the app the website. It took like a couple of years to really get
hang on, let me slow you down there. So that was all taking place in about what year? That'd have been like 2020, pre-COVID?
Oh yeah. We're talking probably 2017.
Wow, really?
Yeah, it was definitely a few years ago. Yeah, and we hadn't met Chris yet at that time. It was just Neil, Steve, Sam, Austin.
Well, and Chris wasn't involved with PFF at that point, was he?
He was. I think
right about 17 or 18.
Yeah, exactly. So it was really hard to get his ear. But we worked. Me, Bobby, and Ray put together some wireframes, and that's like essentially just like an outline of what we wanted the website to look like, how it would work and interact. We came up with obviously like the formulas and everything like that, and then we worked with the development team to kind of bring it to life. And the three of us did all the testing and all of that good stuff, and the project management of the build. And it was awesome. It was a great process, a great learning experience for us, especially as like young men in the business world trying to like find our way. It was it helped us in every aspect of our career. And then, it went live. We did a year of beta testing with just PFF employees. So we had like 250 like graders, and, they have so many graders. There was like 250 people plus like their media people that played in the league with us. Neil played in the league with us. And we actually drove out there to do the first draft with them. And Chris Collinsworth came in the room, and I asked him to do a celebrity pick for me. And he picked Trevon Diggs the year before he broke out, which was really cool.
Nice.
And that was the first time we got to meet him. And he was everything you guys said. He was an awesome guy, really nice guy. And then this year, obviously, or the past few years, we've been working on the mobile app and finally got it to launch a couple months ago. So that was really big for us too. So hopefully next year we'll get to kind of push it to the people a little bit more and get more people interested in and excited about it.
That'd be awesome. I mean, it just is. I'm amazed. One of my backgrounds in marketing overall, and one of the things that I love about PFF and about All-22 really is that I'd given up on fantasy football because I don't like to cheer against the team that I'm watching, and so regular fantasy, I just said, I don't want to see Mahomes have a terrific game. And so I'd stepped away from fantasy football overall. But I think the neat piece and where we need to market this, and where you guys, I'd like to have, the opportunity to, kind of bring some of that, is to say, this is a terrific platform that I'm not smart enough to keep up with all the different players and all their PFF scores and understand how they're going to end up. But it keeps me very engaged in, who the players are across the league and everything else. And I don't have to cheer for somebody that isn't on my team. I can watch it on Sunday and cheer for my team, and then get a score, on Monday that, tells me how we did.
In fact, John, if you have a linebacker who plays for, let's say, the Ravens, and they're playing the Bengals, I'm rooting for that guy to get a lot of tackles, because I've now learned from Jamin Davis that surely means he's going to score poorly this week. But I think you're right. That's one of the things when I was trying to arm twist John Foster into joining an All-22 league, is one of the things I said to him is that I quit fantasy football. And I played fantasy football when we were doing it on a friggin' napkin in 1990. I went to
That's awesome.
to a carry out one day, and they had these little Bud Light things stacked on the counter. And I'm like, what's fantasy football? And showed you how to go home. And it was super basic, right? And
Mhm.
so it did. So I played fantasy football from as early as 1990 for a long, long time. And it finally got to the point that it was sort of not very sophisticated. I was kind of getting annoyed about rooting for people on the other teams and sort of thing. So I finally
Yeah.
got away from it, and your platform drew me right back in. And I love the fact that one of the things I used as a selling point to John is it's not going to impact your fandom on Sunday because there's so much going on that you'll find that it's a really fun thing to do sort of Monday through Sunday at noon. And then you
Mhm.
just put it aside, and then you like are going to be refreshing your computer about every 16 seconds on Monday, waiting for
Mhm.
those grades to start to drop from the day before. That's always like that first Monday when you're waiting for those grades to drop. It's always like, is it 10 o'clock yet? Is it 10:30? Where are the grades? So it's a lot of fun. So what is your goal for the site, Chris? Where do you guys want to take it? What's the short and long-term goal for you guys?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's always been that we want it to be the best user experience it could be. So the user experience is number one. I don't think we're fully there yet, but we're getting there. If you ask Bobby, Ray, and I, the laundry list of things that we want to do, it's long, right? Like we are never satisfied. We want to do a million things, but I think the next thing for us is going to be league chat within the site. I think it's awesome. A lot of people go use like GroupMe or like a Google Chat or something to put their league in, which is great, and I do that in a lot of leagues too. But we think it should all be within the platform. So if we can make that happen and make it as great as possible for people, we're going to try to do that. I think also just making the app feel a little bit smoother, like a traditional app would, instead of I think there are some pages that can definitely be improved upon to make the experience better for people. We're going to do that. Uh, Other things, I got to keep them a little secret. Got to keep people wishing for things a little bit, and then also just listening to feedback and how we can make it better as well. We're gonna make sure to do that. We do have some really really cool things planned that I can't share, but I'm really excited about.
I actually reached out to a cousin that I enjoy football with, and he's like, I don't like fantasy football because I don't like cheering against. He's a Jaguars fan, so believe it or not, but
Nobody's perfect.
you know, his whole thing was, I don't want to cheer against my team. So I think there's a good marketing story in there. We just got to figure out how to tell it and who to tell it to. But how do you grow? That you need. You're right. Your site crashes with exponential growth, but how do you, manage your growth? We used to always say crawl, walk, run. You're
Mhm.
through the crawl stage now. You're to the walk stage, and now we got to figure out how to run and kind of grow it, because then it becomes a place where this is your primary job, and can continue to grow it, and for your partners it is too.
That's
Um,
right. That's the dream.